Good morning, friends. This is the 6th Sunday after Trinity. Steadfast service is the intent. Steadfast service. Another wonderful intent, and something we can learn a great deal from. The collect tells us something very, very interesting, and perhaps something we need to remind ourselves of every day. The collect begins, O God, who has prepared for thy faithful servants such good things as pass man's understanding. Prepared good things that pass man's understanding. I have a little plaque beside my bed, and it says, when I'm praying to God, God has got 3 answers. Yes, not just yet, I've got something even better in mind. So this is something to remember when we're praying, that maybe it doesn't happen immediately, and maybe God's got something much better in hand, underway, that you're not even aware of. And what this collect says is, God has prepared good things that pass man's understanding. We need to be aware of that. Our intellect only has certain limits. Our comprehension of God is only so-so. We have faith that these things are happening, which means we aspire towards that direction, which means we accept them as being done and get on with our lives. We don't dwell on them. The collect goes on, may our hearts be so filled with love towards thee. This is very important. This is another way of saying what I've just said. Our hearts full of love towards thee. In other words, we're saying, this is what we ask for, and thank you for giving it to us. We put it out of our minds, and then we just get on with life. And that allows these things to happen. The collect goes on, that we, loving thee above all things, may show forth that love in continual service of our brethren. So in this small prayer, the small collect, this explains to us what attitude we should have when we're asking the Father, Christ, for whatever. We ask, we expect it's being done, we forget it, we focus just on projecting our love to God and our fellow man simultaneously, and it allows things to happen. The more our waking mind, our conscious mind, obsesses on everything, or that's what that particular part of us does. That waking mind loves to obsess. The more it obsesses, the more it blocks these things actually happening. The more we put that obsession aside and fill it with love for God and our man and fellow men and women, the more the sorts of things that we want to happen will happen, but only bigger, brighter, and better than we anticipated. So what's that got to do with steadfast service? I think one of the hardest things that we can do as humans, as people, in the human kingdom, is have steadfast service, is stick to something that is really good for us, and continue with it. It's very difficult. It's not very difficult to do it once. Not very difficult to do it 3 times. It's very difficult to continue with it. But when people ask successful people, how did you get your success? Invariably, the person will answer in different ways, but in the different ways, what they're saying is, I just did it a lot. I remember seeing interviews with very famous photographers and people saying to him, I'd love to be a good photographer just like you. What should I do? And this famous photographer said, take lots of photographs. Just do it. Just get on with it. Turn up and do it. I think that's a famous one from one rock star, maybe Bob Dylan. Someone said, I'd like to be like you, Bob. You know, what should I do? He's turn up and do it. Just do it continuously. So, when we're thinking about service and we're thinking about what should we do in a steadfast way, then let's fold it back into what I opened this particular homily with. We continually, or we can ask for God for all sorts of things to assist us. I suggest you don't ask God for Maseratis or very large houses. Those things you'll find will bring you no satisfaction whatsoever. But you might ask for deeper understanding. You might ask for an increase in your compassion. You might ask for insight into what's really happening in your life so you can live a richer life. You could ask for those things so that you can apply steadfast service and not have so many distractions. In the epistle that Matto read this morning, it was St. Paul. And St. Paul likes to give lots of lists to people in his letters. I think it's very useful. You can imagine he wrote this letter, people read the letter, and then they have a look at it from time to time. It reminds them what to do. We need something like that every day to remind us. The epistle starts, I beseech you therefore, brethren, that ye present your bodies as a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. This is King James language. What does that mean? We always understand that sacrifice means divine work. Divine work doesn't mean setting fire to something or whatever. It means divine work. And so St. Paul is saying, with your body, with your life, with your activities, think of them always as divine service. Before you begin anything, say a little prayer, this is my divine service. Why is that useful? It reinforces the aspect of steadfast service. And it gives us a little push. It gives our spine just a little bit more stiffness. It gives our purpose just a little bit more purpose, so that we'll stick to it and repeat it. So everything we do, we just dedicate in that way. And then St. Paul goes on and basically says lots and lots of instructions, and all of them can be summarized in the same way Jesus summarized things, which was love one another. And then people said, well, how do we do that, Jesus? How do we do that, Lord? He said, just think about what you're like and what you like. What do you like to happen in your life? And treat other people like that. Simple? Not so much, because the world still needs to learn this lesson. But Jesus put this as the greatest commandment, to love one another as ourselves. The greatest commandment. Love God, and in the same way, love one another. We've yet to learn on this planet how to get along with one another and how to avoid wars. We've yet to learn that. And perhaps in this new Aquarian age, which is trying to birth itself with our help, maybe we will see that. Maybe we will. But the great place to start is steadfast service connected to divine service of us with the basis of loving one another as we love ourselves, as we love ourselves, as we would like to be treated. The gospel is that interesting passage which Jesus said in Holy Week. He was talking to people and he said, this is what will happen in the future. The Son of Man will come and divide people up into sheep and goats. Poor old goats don't do so well in this story. The sheep on the right-hand side are entering the kingdom of heaven, and the goats have got to do a little bit more work before they're allowed into the kingdom of heaven. And then he relates a long story about you, talking to the sheep, you gave me this, you gave me bread, you gave me meat, you came and visited me, and so on and so forth. And again, we're not to necessarily interpret this literally. Of course, do these things when you can. But what he's saying is, when you are dealing with people, give them the best of you. And especially when there's an opportunity, invite them to understand what Christianity is about. What is Christianity about? Christianity is about a change of heart. Why should we change our hearts? Because it teaches us to learn to love better and more thoroughly. Why should we do that? Well, the world needs to change its ways of doing things, particularly to eliminate conflict and all sorts of nastiness and all the rest of it, but war in particular. And this is where we must start. One-on-one, two-on-two, family on family, community with community, city with city. This is how we start. Just as the Dalai Lama says, you want peace on earth? Start with your family. Have harmony in your family, and then go from there. So then, this gospel is a long exposition from St. Matthew, from Passion Week, where Jesus says to the people, and the people on the left-hand side, the people in the goat department said, well, hang on, when could we have helped you? When was it, like, we didn't see you, Lord? And then now they're responding to say, well, if you were really important, we would have certainly done that. I mean, we always like to help important people because that makes us look important, doesn't it? And Jesus said, if you did it to the least of my brethren, to the least deserving, the least nice looking, the least whatever, but you took the time, a few moments to do what? A few moments to say, good morning. A few moments to say, how are you? A few minutes just to say, if someone is willing to hear it, would you like to hear how to have a richer life? That's a more complicated conversation, but you can start it in the simplest way. And that's the way that we spread love to begin with. Not in a complicated way, not at all. In a simple way, just by opening the hearts of one another. When we talk to one another, we talk and listen. This tends to engage our minds, but actually we want to engage our hearts. And when we feel uplifted, when we're talking to one another or doing divine service for one another, then we feel our hearts are lifted. That's the heart softening we are looking for. And that's the inspiration that comes through us, through the Holy Spirit, through the softening of the heart. So that's what steadfast service is all about. Not very complicated to begin with. It's just, good morning, how are you? Just starting from that. Wishing people well. Have a good day. Maybe you don't like saying that. Maybe you think it sounds too corny. If you say it from the heart, it's a blessing. Divine service, steadfast service. I commend these things to you. And think about them through the week and put them into practice. You might be surprised how things change around you.